These images were filmed during an El Nino event in 1998 and 99. More than 20 natural disasters hit the country in less than a year. Flash floods and mudslides killed 2,000. Just as global warming brings the certainty that disasters will strike us all, so here they know that the next El Nino is never far away. Now, 3 years later, it's another El Nino year.
I think El Nino is an excellent example of what we might expect to face in the future as global warming really gets going. And when an El Nino develops, it has a knock-on effect across the whole planet, from sort of blizzards in Peru to floods in Central Europe to drought in Africa, drought in Australia. It has a global impact. And in that sense, El Nino can be regarded as a small example of what we can all expect.
Except global warming will be far worse. Its effects will vary widely, but science can already tell us what our future holds. The seas will warm. At the poles, the ice will begin to melt. Sea levels around the world will rise. In warmer countries, the cycle of dryness and rain will become ever more extreme. As more and more heat pumps into our atmosphere, crippling droughts will be followed by devastating floods. Entire cities will find themselves underwater. Everywhere, storms will become more savage and more intense. Nowhere will be safe. Even life in paradise is under threat. In the Bahamas, they have already experienced what warmer sea temperatures can do. Here, just like Peru, the last El Nino caused destruction. But here it was not lives, it was coral. Coral reefs are among the richest ecosystems on our planet. Environments so diverse and complex that so far we've only learned a fraction of what there is to discover. And before we can learn, many of the world's reefs may have vanished. If the oceans warm, the coral will die, and we have almost no idea what the consequences might be.
This reef here used to be a healthy reef up until about 1998, when there was an El Nino event, which caused sea surface temperatures to rise only about a degree or two, but that was enough to cause the corals to expel the symbiotic algae that live inside of them, which gives them a lot of their food. And after doing that, it was so severe that these corals died, and now they're about 90% dead corals here, where there used to be about 90% live corals.
Sea temperatures here rose just 1.5 degrees for just 2 weeks. It killed almost all the coral. All that remains are these dead structures, devoid of color, almost completely devoid of life.
A lot of the corals were affected. They were bleached white. Many of them recovered. Other ones are still in the process of recovering. So we're just starting to see the regrowth process occur here. In some places, the corals aren't able to get a foothold yet because there's algae and other things that have taken over where there used to be coral. So it's likely to take decades, if not longer, to recover.
But if the coral needs decades to recover, then its future is bleak, not just in the Bahamas, but everywhere. Global warming is predicted to make sea temperatures permanently warmer. That will kill the coral permanently. And if the reefs vanish, countries will lose more than just a natural wonder. They will lose their main defense against the sea.
The reefs are an important barrier for the land, protection against the open ocean, basically. In places where you have a barrier reef, different parts of the Bahamas, throughout the Caribbean and Australia, the Great Barrier Reef is extremely important as a breakwater.
If countries like the Bahamas lose their coral, the only defenses they will have left will be man-made. And man-made defenses may not be enough. This seawall protects Nassau Harbor, or tries to. These blocks are immense, 15 tons each. Yet a single storm ripped away a section almost half a kilometer long.
That storm sat almost 1,000 miles away from the Bahamas, but radiated strong waves that caused extensive damage in the Bahamas. The wave energy was sufficiently severe that it actually took out almost a quarter-mile section of the major sea defenses that protected Nassau Harbor.
Philip Weech is head of the Bahamas National Climate Change Committee. For him, global warming is a real and immediate threat.
Crystal balling is always very difficult in trying to predict what the future is like. It's almost like you and I as a child trying to see what the future is going to be. We would not have imagined, for instance, computers. We would not have imagined many things, but some of those early indicators in the climate systems are there already. What we now know is that what climate change does, it adds more energy to the atmosphere. And the more energy is then translated into events like increased rainfall or more intense storms or more variable weather or more variable climate. We're taking climate change seriously simply because we suffer from too many things. We're vulnerable to too many things that affect our livelihoods and threaten our very way of life. We don't live in isolation. What happens in the United Kingdom or what happens in Europe or the United States affect what happens in the Bahamas. And so we need to make sure we protect all of ourselves because we all live in the same world.
No more tropical paradise. Warmer seas will kill the reefs and expose millions to the full force of the sea. And at the same time, a new threat will emerge. Because the warmer the sea, the fiercer the hurricane.
Early this morning, Hurricane Mabel finally hit land. It swept across Puerto Rico, killing an estimated 12,000. The storm is now heading north towards America, making it the 10th hurricane to hit the US so far this year. The probability of it hitting Washington is now 93% and rising. Meteorologists expect damage costing hundreds of billions of dollars in America alone. The storm is currently heading for Haiti. It will almost certainly cause thousands of deaths. Washington is in trouble too. 10 million people have already been evacuated, but an estimated 3 million have refused to leave. Rioting and looting there as the civil defense forces struggle to take control of the city. Mabel has already hit Category 5, the top of the hurricane scale, and it's still getting stronger. Experts predict.
Hurricanes are fed by the heat of the ocean. Now, obviously, the warmer the ocean, and the oceans will warm up as the planet warms up, the more hurricanes and the stronger hurricanes you're likely to spawn. And the devastation will be just extraordinary. A large percentage of the buildings severely damaged or knocked down. These are enormously powerful phenomena with the strengths of hundreds of nuclear bombs.
Hurricanes are the largest, most powerful storms on Earth. They can whip the sea up into a 10-meter surge. Waves reach impossible heights. A hurricane's power is irresistible. Survive one, and it's an experience you'll never forget.
The dock that I'm sitting on right here was just carried away by waves and washed up on shore a couple hundred meters.
It brought seawater in at about almost a quarter of a mile further inland than it was before.
We did have one boat out on a mooring here that's up on the shore now.
It damaged buildings, it destroyed property.
Part of the road that we have washed away just because the waves were coming in from this direction and breaking right on the road.
Seawater was pushed inland, some 6 or 7 miles inland, and essentially drained into the ocean on the opposite side.
The thought of having more frequent hurricanes or more intense hurricanes is a really scary one, especially for me, because my wife and I just bought a piece of property on Great Exuma that's about as close to the water as where I'm sitting now, and if a big storm comes through, the house is gone and we lose everything, so it's pretty scary, yeah.
By 2050, hurricanes could be more frequent and more powerful, bringing winds, storm surges, and floods. How will we cope? How many will die? The worst we've experienced today will seem trivial tomorrow. Our future is a dangerous place.